What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here for the Sunday Weekly Sports Card Market Update, a news-heavy edition. It has been an extremely busy week when it comes to the news side. Things kicked off with the CGC merger, went into all the Topps Fanatics stuff with the terms and conditions going out to shops, the NBA draft, just all sorts of stuff. Wemby on card autos through Topps Now. Just Ellie De La Cruz going crazy again this weekend. It has been an absolutely wild week in the real sports card, or in the sports world, and in the sports card world specifically. The non-sports card world also is going absolutely crazy. I wanted to do a video on that this past week, and I just, quite frankly, just never got to it because of the Topps Fanatics shop news stuff. But you have the Lord of the Rings bounty for the One Ring going up to $2 million. Marvel Masterpieces got announced and is supposedly coming out extremely quickly. There was that news. Wild stuff in the streets in the little pieces of cardboard world. I'm officially booked for New York City Comic Con. The wife and I snagged tickets for that this past week. We haven't made travel plans or anything yet, but we will be attending New York City Comic Con at least on Thursday and Friday. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Let's kick things off first with the CGC stuff. Biggest reason why, if you have questions, I will be interviewing Matt and Andy from CGC. I guess we could just call it CGC now. I don't have to do the CGC/CSG thing anymore, which was probably, as a content creator, the biggest benefit of this whole thing. I will be interviewing Matt and Andy on Monday afternoon. So if you have questions for CGC regarding this whole switcheroo that they have done, feel free to fire those in the comments down below. You could just put question for CGC and whatever your question is. Like I said, I am recording that Monday afternoon. That video will probably go up on Tuesday, most likely. So Tuesday's video will probably be a little bit of a longer form video with an interview from the fine folks over at CGC. I'm already going to ask them about, subgrades going away, the label stuff, like the kind of obvious stuff. But if there's something specific, I would really like to hear from everybody, but specifically the TCG folks, because the TCG side is the thing that I am the least in tune with, if you will. On the sports card side, I don't know that this change really shifted much around other than the name. But if you have questions for them, fire in the comments down below, and I'll do my best to work them into the interview. And like I said, that should be up on Tuesday. So we had that come out. The vibes on that have been The sports card side, people don't seem to care that much, to be quite frank. And honestly, there's really not much that changed on the sports card side of things. The label adjusted slightly, but it's really not a huge change from the label that they had. The grading scales changed or stayed the same. On the TCG/Marvel side, this was a way bigger deal. It was kind of like what we went through when CSG switched up to grading scale about a year ago, with the whole, 9.5 becoming a Gem Mint 10. There's been some confusion around that because 9.5 as a Gem Mint grade confuses everybody. People mad about it getting bumped to a 10. People mad that perfect 10s are going away. People being mad about the subgrades. People mad about the blue label. To me, the blue label is probably the biggest thing, and I'm looking at that from the very niche case of a Marvel card collector. I'm still debating what I want to do. From what I have heard, and I'll confirm this when I talk to them on Monday, you could still submit up until July 10th and still get things slabbed in the old label. I had started the quest of chasing a set in the blue label, and I just kind of kept putting it off to my mistake now. So if I want a complete set in the blue label, I got to send about 80 cards off to get graded. It would be in a very expensive grading bill that I was not planning on having a month before the National. So I'm going to have to make a tough call here on if I want to shoot for that set in the blue label graded, or just let it ride and convert over what I have to the new label and just kind of go from there. I don't know, but I have to make that decision fairly quickly. That's the 92 Jim Lee X-Men set, which, if you know the set, the blue label plays perfect off of it. So from that perspective, I feel the pain of the collector base on that one. We'll see how this shakes out. I expect, it's probably going to take about a month or two till gem rate data starts rolling in correctly for them as they shift around the pop report next month. And it'll be interesting to kind of track those numbers and see how submissions go for them. I expect that we're going to get more grading news. We're going to start getting all the national specials and that sort of stuff very quickly here, as we are now 1 month away from the national, almost exactly 1 month from the day that this video goes up. So that's going to be here before you know it. We keep talking about it, but it keeps on creeping. Chantilly show was this past weekend. I haven't heard anything in regards to vibes for that. So if you were there, feel free to drop any comments down below. I did not talk to the normal dealers that I talked to for that. Was pretty busy this weekend. But if you were at Chantilly or set up, attended, whatever, feel free to throw a vibe check down in the comments below. I saw they had a lot of good autograph guests. Chantilly show always knocks it out of the park with the autographed guests. Next up, all the Topps Fanatics nonsense, I guess. It's not really nonsense, but the rules and regulations has been a hot topic of discussion this past week with the whole allocations and breaking. I found it very amusing. So those came out and, they had very specific like store codes of conduct and that sort of stuff in it. And like kind of like minimum standards, like you need to be open this many hours. You need to have this style of displays and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden I see, Susan actually from CGC tweeted, and I had noticed this as well, but kind of really didn't even connect the dots on this one. And I think Sports Card Radio was talking about this on their live stream on Thursday. I caught a few bits and pieces of that. A lot of stores all of a sudden had a midsummer renovation / update. There was a lot of stores posting how they were updating things and renovating things and fresh coat of paint and new hours and all this stuff. I just found extremely amusing. And maybe this was planned for a while. I assume that it was. Ryan at Card Collector 2 doesn't usually fire things out there on a whim. I saw that he kind of did like a grand reopening on Saturday. It looked extremely busy based off of IG posts. But they have new store hours. They're open more hours now, and it kind of lines up with the stuff that was in that Topps document. So, it is what it is, but it seems like that we are seeing the immediate impacts of those terms and conditions going around already. There was some chat about, like the whole, the breaking part of that is really what got people the most fired up. And like I said, I talked to some store owners, and the two big takeaways from what they read in there were the breaking stuff and the whole business to business reselling, essentially the dealer net perspective of this. And it should be mentioned, and Sports Card Radio talked about this in their video, and I are in their live, and I confirmed this with some people that I talked to. There is a separate agreement. So if you want to break Topps product, whether it's on Fanatics Live or not, there is a separate agreement that you sign up. It's essentially a breaking program that is out there. And once again, like I said, SCR kind of talked about this in their live stream, and I talked to some people about this as well. I don't know the details on how it works, but essentially there is a separate terms if you want to be in the breaking program that go, hand in hand with those other ones. The ones that were shared with me and kind of went around the internet were the Topps direct for brick and mortar retail. If you want to break from Topps, you have to be part of this other program as well. Now, the details on that, I don't really have them. I don't know if that's something you could just apply for, or if they have to come tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, we're going to let you in or let you apply, or how that all works. But essentially, there are two separate terms and conditions out there, depending on kind of what you want to do with Topps product. And some people have both, depending on what you're doing. That was really the main thing of the week, as we begin to see more and more with Fanatics and their, I guess, control, for lack of a better term. That a lot of interesting conversations around that in the comments on those videos. Some people very much for all these rules and regulations, and then a lot of people are like, this is monopolistic. How can they do this? This, that, the other thing. Here's the thing. Sports cards have been a monopoly in some shape or form for a while. only Topps could make baseball cards forever. Only Panini could make basketball and football cards forever. So if you wanted basketball and football cards licensed, you had to go to Panini. Sure, there was 2 companies then, not one, but it was kind of the same thing. You were beholden to whatever they wanted to do with it. The key difference here is that Topps and Fanatics are actually leveraging that position, whereas Panini and old Topps never really did that. And the running joke has been, the good old boy network, this, that. The good old boy network is now just Michael Rubin and whatever Fanatics wants to do. I'm sure there's some carryover, but if you've been in with them, then you're looking good. If you follow their rules and regulations, you're looking good. Before it was you took so-and-so out to dinner and you would get the backdoor hookup. That's definitely not the case anymore. I'm sure there is still some backroom shenanigans that go on, but it is Fanatics world, and the shops and LCSs are living in it, and you either play by their rules or you do not get product, and the product is the lifeline. So I'm sure there'll be more to come out from that. Like I said, very interesting talking points kind of around that whole situation. Completely unrelated, that is actually a really nice Ellie De La Cruz. We'll talk more about him in a minute. It's actually a pretty nice Topps Now card. Let's talk a little Panini. 2 Panini things. We're going to circle back and talk about Topps again too, because they kind of play off of one of the Panini things. Panini put out this little video right after the NBA draft. It actually posted on Saturday. And it talks about all the new NBA draft picks and them getting their rookie cards, their first official Panini rookie cards, and them signing autographs for Panini. You can see they're playing on the screen. And there is one notable person missing. One very tall, 7'6", whatever he is, center number 1 pick in the draft, Victor Wembanyama, is not featured in this video. We also had the stuff this past week around Select with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young not being on the XRC checklist, and kind of the shenanigans that Panini pulled with that XRC autograph checklist. A lot of people were very mad about that. I feel like a lot of people probably got screwed over on that. I mean, it was a mystery checklist, so you kind of, knew that something weird could happen. But I have a feeling a lot of people bought that product and bought those redemptions without having any idea what was in them. So we are definitely in the war of exclusive autographs. Now, Victor will have Spurs licensed cards. That won't be a problem. But it does, once again, nothing official, at least nothing official that I have seen. But more and more, it appears that Victor is going to be a Topps exclusive for autographs. And we will see what that means in the long term. But Panini is going to have rough times in the streets for high-end 2023 product. If Victor's not in there, and then they're missing 3 of the top quarterbacks in the NFL class, that's rough times. That is really, really rough times. The other thing that Panini announced this week, which I have not had a chance to talk about in a video, they are doing Prism White Sparkle packs like they did for football recently if you have old outstanding redemptions. So they classify it as low to mid-tier, but they never tell us what that actually means. So if you have an old basketball redemption laying around that is not I guess that is not a high end. Once again, we don't really know what that means because they give us no specifics. But if you have an old redemption laying around of someone kind of random, it looks like you are going to get Prism Sparkle packs for those. Some people will probably be very excited about that. Some people will probably be very mad about that. If you have outstanding redemptions and that you end up getting packs for these or for whoever you get redemptions or have, throw that in the comments down below. I'd be very curious. I have an outstanding redemption for X player. I got packs for them. It sounds like you will be receiving notification on this very, very quickly. They did very similar to this to football. I didn't hear anyone throw a massive fit about I had this monster card as a redemption and they sent me a Sparkle pack. I'm sure maybe it happened, but I feel like if it did, we would have heard about it. So I feel like their low to mid tier is probably fairly accurate, but I do know some specific player collectors that had targeted that redemption for a very specific reason because they PC that player were not happy about this when this rolled out. But Panini White Sparkle packs tend to sell for a decent amount of cash, so you could probably cash these out and not even open them and do pretty okay on them compared to what the redemption was that you were about to get. But just gotta keep an eye on that if you have old outstanding Panini redemptions out there. We hinted at it. The Victor on card auto. This is, I don't know why this is like this. There we go. So Thursday night NBA draft happens. Victor goes number 1 overall. Obviously, within about a half an hour, Panini Topps has a Dutch auction, good old Dutch auction, going back to that well again, of Victor Wembanyama on card autos from draft night. Now, it's actually not even from draft night. That's not the suit that he wore on draft night. At least I don't believe that it is. So these go up $4,000 starting price. They drop $250 every 5 minutes. There were a little mystery element to it. You knew that you were getting an on-card auto, but you did not know the numbering. I think they made like 700 in some of these, if my memory is correct. And they were blind packages. Like I said, you at worst case, you would get like an out of $3.99 or something. And then they went lower from there. And then anything 10 or lower would have an inscription on it, which was pretty cool. These sold out at around $1,500. They dropped. It was very glitchy, very buggy compared to some of their other ones that they have done. I got down to $1,500. I was actually able to cart one. I could have checked out with it. I had no desire to, so I just let it ride. But then very shortly after that, it sold out at that $1,500 tier. So if you wanted them at $1,500, you definitely could have got one, which I think checks out. I haven't checked his Bowman University autos to see what those typically go for, but that's in that range with, you know, maybe you get the you get a little lucky and it gets a little bump up. So we'll see how much they print him and kind of how they work around. If he is indeed Fanatics exclusive, how they kind of work him in the product as an NBA player. They can't do a jersey for. At least the assumption is they can't do a jersey for. I keep waiting for something weird to come out with that as well. So that is the Victor news. Eventful NBA draft night. We had the Porzingis trade right before, Marcus Smart trade. We'll talk about some of that when we move into charts and graphs, but charts and graphs will be a little bit shorter than normal because of the news-heavy-like nature of this week. Speaking of, let's just go ahead and jump in the charts and graphs now. We'll hop on over to good old Market Movers. If you want your own versions of charts and graphs, link is in the description down below. You could get the first 2 weeks for free to try it out. And then if you like it, you get 20% off whatever plan you end up signing up for. And that 20% is for life. So you just get a flat 20% off for whatever plan you sign up with. That does work on yearlies as well. First up, baseball. Ellie. Kind of hinted at him earlier in the week or earlier in the video. Ellie hit for the cycle. The Reds are on absolute fire. Ellie De La Cruz mania is here. His cards, for the most part, have set new all-time highs this weekend. You can see the light blue line here is his first Bowman Chrome auto in a PSA 10. It got up to a little over $1,000 upon call up. It is now up to $1,200, give or take. And most of his other stuff is up as well. This is his just base Sapphire PSA 10 is up to $315. That is very close to where it was. It was actually higher back on his initial call up. Same with his Sapphire Auto. On his call up, it got up to 1.6K, and you can actually see it started dipping back down again. The Sapphire Auto dipped back down, and then now has gone back up to that 1.5K-ish. So still not an all-time high. The all-time high is still on the call up, but the first Bowman Chrome did end up going back to a new all-time high. That one actually stayed kind of flat. It went up right at call up, and there was a little bit of a lull of sales there while that one was going down. That one stayed flat, and then it started creeping back up, basically in line with the Sapphire. It just had a flat period there where no sales happened, and you can see the base Sapphire. Let's just shorten this up a little bit to like 60 days. Actually, let's go to 30 days. You can see the base Sapphire kind of did the same thing. It went up on call up, leveled out, and then dipped back down again, and is now back up on the upswing. So we'll see how long this continues. He did struggle for a little bit after the initial call up, just ever so slightly. There's still some concerns there with strikeout rates and things like that, but the dude's electric. There's no denying it. And I said that, in the video that I made, that you should be selling on the call up at least a majority stake of his stuff. And I still stand by that. He's not going to hit for the cycle every single night. He could be the next second coming of the greatest player ever. We were saying the same thing about J-Rod last year. And look how that has worked out. Yes, one of these guys is going to be the guy. There is one every kind of era. But odds are you are better off betting against that guy being the guy, because 99% of the time, that's the right side to be on. Is he a fun player? If you like Ellie, if you're a Reds fan, I get it. Do your thing. It's fine. It's perfectly okay. But I can already see the saltiness of the Ellie De La Cruz defense force in the comment section already. But he's absolutely electric. Fun player. Has put the Reds back on the map. I saw they sold out their game the other night. And actually, circling back to it, like, this Topps Now card looks great. Absolutely great. I may actually pick up a couple of those. I don't know yet. I think it ends in a few hours. But I may circle back and grab a couple of those just for the hell of it. The Ohtani card that I graded out in PSA 10s from that submission sold extremely well. Not a huge profit margin, but well enough. So I may end up grabbing some of those. We'll see. Continuing on, basketball. The Zinger, the unicorn himself. Kind of funny how cheap some of these cards get, and you just really don't realize it. This is his base Prism PSA 10, just because it had the most transactions this week. He got traded to the Celtics in that Marcus Smart deal. Pretty interesting deal overall for all the teams involved. I kind of like Smart on the Grizzlies. He kind of feels like a Grizzly player. We'll see how that works out. Zinger on the Celtics will be intriguing as well. They really haven't had a player like him in a really long time. And he's coming off a great season. If he can stay healthy or not, whole different story. But this is his base PSA 10 Prism. Only 1,300 on these because it's a 2015 Prism. When you're talking base, it's actually still a pretty limited pop count. This card, wait for it, was selling for a whopping $12 to $15 not more than a couple days ago. It's wild how cheap some of this stuff gets. He gets traded to the Celtics, and what do you know? We go to the moon. Up to $50. Hey, man, that is a pretty good deal if you could get it. $15 on the 19th, up to $50 on the 22nd. That's a 261% increase overall. So if you have Zinger stuff laying around, this is probably your exit ramp. Move off of his stuff now. You can see it's probably already going to start to come back down again. I would not be surprised. Though, once again, his population counts are a lot lower given the era that his rookies were released in. So it's not like the market's going to get super flooded with stuff, but his buying pool is going to be relatively small, I have to imagine. So if you have Zinger stuff laying around, now might be your chance to kind of move off of it. If nothing else, it will add a bit of liquidity to the market around his stuff. Last but not least, and we'll kind of wrap things up. Like I said, just a little shorter section on charts and graphs, just given the glut of news on the front end. Football, just kind of wanted to check in. I went silver PSA 9s this time, just to get a little bit more traction on the number of transactions. And some of these cards just don't sell that often in a PSA 10. So we went silver 9s of kind of like the young crop of guys. I have Herbert, Burrow, Lawrence, Hurts, Fields, and Tua. And I went back to March 1st on these. So a good almost 4 months on these bad boys. And you can see a lot of green here. Herbert's up 30, almost 35%. Burrow's the only one that's down slightly. He's also the most expensive of the lot. Trevor Lawrence is up 45%. Jalen Hurts is up 25%. Fields is up 167%. Now remember, this is going back to March 1st, and they made a bunch of splashy free agent moves. So he kind of got a little extra spike up in his prices. And then Tua is up 35%. So if you kind of loaded up on football in that early March section of the world, you're probably sitting pretty okay right now on most of these guys heading into the National. You probably have made decent margins on these guys, depending on when you bought, and you will be able to exit off of them if you so choose, leading up or heading into the National. I always think, I'm not the first person to say this. Me, Flipping Steve, talk about this all the time. Plenty of people talk about this all the time. Football at the National is always a thing. That is usually the hottest sport in the room by a mile, unless someone's super hot in baseball. And once again, Ellie will probably be very hot as long as he stays consistent. But football at the National is always a thing. So if you loaded up in March with the anticipation to move, once we got to the end of July, you're probably sitting pretty okay. The big Ellie question that is out there right now is, will he show up in 2023 product? Will he be an update, or are they going to try to pull some nonsense and hold him back? I don't remember where the cutoff deadlines are for that sort of stuff. You would think he would be an update. God, I hope they don't mess around with this. Will he be in regular Topps Chrome? Don't know. Will they hold him for Topps Chrome update? Don't know. Whatever product he ends up being in will be the hyped chase product of the year. I see like 3 Facebook posts a day. What boxes can I go buy to chase Ellie De La Cruz? What packs is Ellie De La Cruz's rookie cards in? As of right now, nothing at the moment, but that will change very soon. I have to imagine they get him in update, and then we'll see what happens with him for Topps Chrome and some of the later releasing products. They could play games. They've been known to in the past, but hopefully he at least gets in on the update stuff. That would juice update again for the second year in a row. That is all I have for you. Once again, as a reminder, if you have questions for the team over at CGC Cards, drop those in the comments down below. I will work those into Monday's interview if I am able to. That is all I have for you, boys and girls. We will catch you on the next one. Peace.